AM 590, KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Metro's only racing talk show. The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Buddy Ray.
Hey y'all, it's Miss Coors Light, and you're listening to The Front Stretch.
Good morning, race fans, and welcome to The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. Get to Joe's today. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, and so much to do. That has got to be the perfect area to just take a group of friends and have a good old time. Head over to Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of The Front Stretch. Have yourself a brew, maybe two, not too many. You got to keep under the legal
here's an
limit.
idea. You go have lunch. I mean, I might even take my beautiful bride from time to time over there, have lunch.
You got to marry her first.
Yeah, I got to marry her first.
I mean, I know you guys
Then you go across the street, you watch a 2-hour movie, go watch some Rob Van Dam or something like that, and then you go across
Rob Van Dam?
Okay, well, that kind of shows my age.
Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Or Jean-Claude. No, I'm thinking RVD from WWE. So then you go across the street and you go race go-karts.
You couldn't have a better day, and it all can happen right there in Council Bluffs, 23rd Avenue. So much to do, so much to get to today. Yeah,
I tell you what, though, watch our Facebook. We have a whole new thing coming out with Joe's Karting on Facebook. It hasn't gone live yet, but I think it's going to be February 1st. We're going to start doing daily specials.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like on Monday, if I remember right, on Monday, if Dan Taylor walks in and goes, I'm going to run a 15.4 second lap time in this race, and he does it, he gets a free race. On Tuesday.
Wait, 15, what would you say?
15.4.
I ran a 15.2 the day of the holiday horsepower drive. I think it was
on
a 15.2.
Monday, you have to name your lap time.
Okay.
You have to claim your lap time. So you're like, well, I'm going to run a 15.4 in this race. So you buy your race, you run a 15.425. You get a free race, but you have to claim what you're going to run in each race that you buy.
What
to
if
get the free race.
So if I call my home run, I got to hit it. I can't just walk in there and say I'm going to run an 18-second lap and I run a 17 and I get a free race.
That don't qualify.
Okay, I got to call it to the 10th.
Yep.
Okay,
you got to call it to the 10th, but then on Tuesday. Record-breaking Tuesdays. And what we're going to do here is on the first race of the day at 4 o'clock when we open normally, the first race, whoever has the fastest lap automatically gets a free lap at Joe's. So if you ran a 15.5 in that first race, you get a free race because you made the track record that day.
Right, I just want to clarify.
In that second race...
I just want to clarify. You said they get a free lap. You mean
or
a free
race? They get a free race.
Let me tell you, folks. Buddy and I haven't been doing the front stretch for a couple of weeks. We got to record them and take a little time off. Clearly rusty, so just bear with us for the moments because words are going to come out of our mouths that just bear with us, please.
So anyways, on Tuesday, the first race of the day, if you set the fast lap time, you get a free race because you made the record. Well, in that second race, if the record in the first race was a 15.5 and in that second race you just ran a 15.2, you get a free race.
Okay.
So if you break the record each race or whatever, it's record breaker Tuesday. On Wednesdays, we're going to have Wisdom Wednesday. We want to get back to the racer, and we want to ask you, what do you want to see different at Joe's? Give us your feedback. In 2014, we're going to make Joe's Karting about you, the racer. It's not about us. We did that in 2013. 2014, we're giving back to the racer.
Cool.
Here's a really neat thing. On Thursdays, it's going to be kind of...
Thirsty Thursdays?
No Thursdays.
You guys got to get that liquor license already.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
Yeah, I know.
But on Thursdays, we're going to do kind of a throwback Thursday idea. But one week, it's going to be sprint cars. The next week, it's going to be modifieds. The next week, it'll be hobby stocks. We want to see your rides. And even if you don't have a race car, if you got a nice car, now your rusted out 72 Chrysler Imperial station wagon, Dan, don't count.
You know what? The shaggin' wagon's pretty bitchin', so just back off.
The problem is you ain't doing no shagging in that wagon.
Well, there's shaggy carpet in it, so I call it the shaggin'.
I'm going to start calling you Scooby-Doo. Problem is you don't qualify for Scooby treats.
Oh, my God.
On Fridays...
let's just stop. Let's change. We're getting way too... Okay, on Fridays...
We're going to do trivia. And then on Saturday, Sunday, we don't know what we're doing yet, but there'll be something there. But
all right.
It's going to be a whole new deal. It's going to be really fun, really interactive.
Awesome.
Come on down, see us. You won't be disappointed.
Pay attention to the Joe's Karting Facebook page. By the way, if you can't find it on Facebook, there is an apostrophe in there. I know several times I've searched for it, and because I don't put the apostrophe in there, I end up getting to Joe's Crab Shack. So
yeah, we're even going to start doing some with these hashtag things, which I'm learning a whole lot about.
Don't do it. I hate hashtags.
Well, we're going hashtag.
Don't do it. Twitter's not that big of a deal.
No, there's hashtag on Facebook, I guess. I didn't even.
But
when I think of hashtag, I think of hash browns, though.
I know. I get hungry every time. The reason why there's hashtags on Facebook is because Twitter will automatically repost it onto Facebook. So when they hashtag on Twitter, it copies over to Facebook. I don't think Facebook does hashtags unless they modified something.
I don't do Twitter. Every time I think of the word Twitter, I think of twit, and well,
I can't decode it. I tried it. For when I first jumped on this show in 2012. I tried really hard to get into it, but I could not understand what they were saying.
You want something hard?
So I gave it up.
Rachel,
no.
Rachel's daughter showed me how to do this, and I look like the world's biggest moron. This Snapchat thing.
Oh, boy. We're going to change the subject right now because I don't even want to go down that road. Big show lined up for you today. Turn one, we're going to just kind of chit-chat a little bit. As you can tell, it's very off the cuff right now. We're just kind of sitting around shooting the breeze. We have a couple of things to talk about, including Roger Hayden getting National IMCA Promoter of the Year nomination. I haven't seen on Facebook.
I think that's the second year in a row that he's gotten that, I believe.
For Eagle Raceway, so we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about Crawford County Speedway's doing a special race coming up April 5th, and we got a lot to talk about. Interns 3 and 4, our Legends of the Dirt series, is Gary Webb. I think 500 and some odd feature wins over his career, traveled throughout the Midwest.
I'm not too far away from that. I got one.
Right. Just, you're getting there. Just
I'm getting there.
Going.
I'm pacing myself.
Okay, so I can't even do the math. How many years you'd have to race to catch up?
I don't know if you're Jesse Sabe. That happens in 2 years.
You're talking, eons. Literally eons.
But I tell you what, he's a nice guy. It's a great interview. You
fun
guys will
interview.
love this.
He was very interactive, so that'll be fun to talk to him. And then also at turn 2, we're going to talk a little bit about the walk down Sunset Lane. This is the last show before we record the walk down Sunset Lane, which is coming up this Wednesday at Quaker Steak and Lube. So we'll get to all of that and kind of preview some of the different things that we've come together and came up with to kind of add to the experience, to add to the fun. So this isn't just us sitting around talking about how we'll talk about it in turn 2. I do want to get to something that's a little serious, so I apologize if we're going to change paces really quick on you, but I don't know if you want to talk about it much. You don't have to if you don't want to. I just felt like it needed to get out there, but your father diagnosed with cancer.
Lung cancer.
Cancer. And it's never easy to say it, but it's
terminal. He ain't got much longer. I'm trying to tell a lot of his racing friends. I'm 38, and I have a lot of people that I race against my age that may not know him. But when you go back 20 years and you see a lot of the fathers and the grandfathers in the pits, 20 years ago, he was in his late 30s, early 40s. And so he's, at this stage, I could only imagine it being his age. But anyways, what I was saying, I'm telling everybody, if you want to come on over, see him, he's on Facebook, you might want to say a few words. So
he's social, able to talk.
Oh, yeah.
This goes either way. I just had a friend that passed from cancer. And he was, he said, listen, there's nothing I can do about it. I might as well enjoy what I got left.
Oh yeah, he found out this last Wednesday. It's terminal. He's just gonna pretty much live out his glory days. In fact, I was actually joking with him. I guess this gives me an excuse to have one last kegger with a bunch of strippers. But he kind of laughed. But he's talking about the good old days. He can talk. He's got a sore throat quite a bit, so he doesn't talk a lot. But he did tell me, he's like, his exact words, and I quote, "Damn it, if I die, that doesn't give you an excuse not to go racing." I was like, oh, there's a lifelong reason to go racing.
Oscar, your dad, has been a fixture in pit areas throughout the decades and helping you with your racing. So we felt like it was important to get it out there. If you want to get, if you know Oscar, don't feel shy. Just
he loves to talk to anybody. He would love to be talking to as many people as possible now. Just don't try to call him and expect him to be on the phone for an hour, because with his sore throat, it hurts and he doesn't want to talk. But he loves to text and he loves to be on Facebook. He probably Facebooks more than Rachel's daughters.
He Facebooks more than you.
Yeah.
And you're kind of a diva on Facebook. So we just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk walk down Sunset Lane. We'll talk Crawford County Speedway special race. The Deary brothers coming back for the first time in 21 years. 21 years or so.
20 years in western Iowa.
Yeah, we'll talk Roger Hayden. We'll talk a lot more. This is the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. We'll be back. It's AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This is Andrew from Kaziski Auto Parts. Kaziski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kaziski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kaziski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kaziski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
We're working the high line into turn 2 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
Hey, this is Paul Menard, and you're listening to The Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, heading into turn 2, brought to you by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Don't forget to get to Quaker Steak and Lube, Mid-American Drive in Council Bluffs, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch, and the home of the walk down Sunset Lane.
I'm getting excited for that.
Oh my God, I know.
You've put it on Facebook. Can I announce the newest person to show up for this?
Do it. Hit it.
The driver of the 9K Pro-Am or Bronco and then the 9K Grand National Late Model, John Kinney Jr.
6 championships at Sunset Speedway alone. If I counted that right, I need to go back and make sure, but I'm pretty sure I counted that right. 6 championships at Sunset Speedway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was just... I remember when I was a little kid, that was the first time I'd ever seen a father-son race against each other, and he had this pink car, this pink Pro-Am, and I was like, you got to be seriously, some guy's going to have a pink car? And then he'd go out there and school him, and then I got to meet him. And honestly, if it wasn't for John Kinney Jr., I wouldn't even be racing today, because when I started in 1994, a lot of the parts, my seat, came from John Kinney Jr.'s shop. He helped me with some parts, and he introduced me to what it was like to be a racer, helping a racer. I mean, he was very big. So even though we're going to be there with the show, for me, it's like the little 10-year-old gets to come out and go, John Kinney Jr.
So he's the one we can blame.
But I tell you what, there's a lot of good drivers coming to this thing. This is a once-in-a-lifetime. It'll probably never happen again. If you don't show up and you are a true lover of dirt track racing, you are doing yourself a huge injustice if you do not come to the walk down Sunset Lane.
We'll get to all that, but before we get to the walk down Sunset Lane, I want to make sure and cover these other things, because we're going to go on and on about the walk down Sunset Lane. We got about 12 minutes left in this segment before we get into the Legends of the Dirt series presented by Kaziski Auto Parts, and I want to make sure and talk about some of these other things because we're going to get on and blab about walk down Sunset Lane, and then we'll forget all about congratulating Roger Hayden on being nominated for the National RPM Promoter Award. Out of Daytona Beach, Eagle Raceway.
Did he win it, or was he the nominee?
He's one of the nominees. The press release came out January 7th, and on February 17th, the winner will be announced during Speed Week National Workshop in Daytona Beach. So I imagine Roger going to take his private jet, fly down there, and...
His private jet. It's funny you mention that, because I have one of my Power Glides out of my race cars at his shop, and he goes, well, I'm going to be going to Daytona. And I was like, oh, I think I know what this is for. But I tell you what, you go to his track, and all these promoters work tirelessly to give us a facility to go race.
Yeah.
But you look at his car count, you look at his fan count, you look at the promotions that he does. I mean, kudos to him, and especially in IMCA when it's so cutthroat. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but when everybody's vying basically for the racer's business and he's excelling at it.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, kudos to him.
I gotta say, I haven't been to a lot of dirt tracks in my time. I've been to probably about 5 or 6 dirt tracks total.
Different tracks,
right,
but a lot more races.
Easily the most efficiently ran is Eagle Raceway.
Oh man,
hands over.
When you have other tracks employees show up to see how they do that,
yeah.
that speaks.
Second is I-80 Speedway, and it baffles me to this day. and it's only been 2 years, but I've been to one racetrack, and I'm not kidding you. It was one of these instances where it was a feature lap, and it was early in the race, and a driver just simply spun out, and they pulled the old, car won't start. Wait for it. Oh, there's the caution. Now my car started. 8 laps later, they still hadn't gone back to green. Ridiculous. You don't see that at the top tracks because, listen, fans don't want to wait for it.
Us drivers don't want to wait for it.
That's wasting fuel. It's heating your engines up.
And when it's 100 degrees in the middle of July and August, do you think I seriously want to be out there because you can't get your...
Forget about it. So congratulations to Roger for being nominated, as he is one of 6 nominees for the prestigious Auto Racing Promoter of the Year award given out by Racing.
Who's the other nominees?
Well, then you're going to ask me a question I don't know the answer to. It doesn't look like it's in here.
Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what, Roger, for what he's doing, wow. In my book, and I'm not, and I might be a little biased, but I'm giving it to him. But I believe this is the second year in a row he's been nominated for this. And he, at some point this year, I mean, it'd be an injustice if he didn't win it. He should have won it last year.
Yeah.
He better damn well win it this year. I'm going to be calling somebody.
So kudos to Roger. Another big thing I just found out earlier this week, Crawford County Speedway going to do a special race on April 5th. I talked to Joe Miller, one of the Racing Board Association members, and the Deary Brothers Summer Series for IMCA. It's going to be on April 5th. That's a Saturday, so it's going to be a special Saturday race. It's going to be one of those races you kind of knock off some of the old rust. We get out some of the kinks. But everyone knows weather in the Midwest, it's a little iffy. In August, you can pretty much guarantee it's not going to rain. In January, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to snow. Those are two of the most... the 2 months where there's the most moisture. But in April, it can be sunny and 75, or it could be windy, blowing, and freezing and snow.
I've seen it 70 and sunny in January in Nebraska and Iowa. But I tell you what, that April 5th race, first time in 20 years in Western Iowa, Deary Brothers Late Model Show. If you think this is going to be like your weekly IMCA show with the late models, think again, because these guys are going to be out for the first time in 20 years. It's the first race of the Deary Brothers this year. They're going to be out to make a statement. Josh Most said it best 2 years ago that when you're running for a points championship or you're trying to win a race, you have to make your move early. You don't want to sit there and lollygag around to the end of the season. Yeah. So when they come out this first time on this new track configuration, which everybody's loving at Crawford County, with the way they redid turns 3 and 4, you're going to see some of the fastest late model racing you've ever seen, I believe, in Western Iowa. This is a show for the ages.
Yeah, forgive me. I'm going to make a lot of dirt trackers mad with one of my regular questions, but just simply out of not knowing what dirt tracking was T-minus 3 years ago, what is the Deary Brothers?
The Deary Brothers is they're all IMCA sanctioned cars, but it's a series within the series.
Okay.
And the Deary Brothers series is only for late models.
Okay.
You don't see, Deary Brother Modified or Deary Brother. It's just the late models. But when I think of Deary Brother late models, the name strikes fear in me as a driver because that is the best of the best that IMCA's got to offer right there.
Awesome. Sprint cars, the 305s, the Race Savers, they're going to be there that night.
I can't wait for that class at Denison.
I know.
Boy.
I'm getting pretty excited about this.
I bet you I'm going to go on the record and say I bet you there's 20 to 25 of them first night.
I was talking with Stan Caesar earlier this week, and by his comments about this, I would think that's a lowball number. Because he's talking about a lot of these guys up in Des Moines in that area have got some stuff they need to shake out. They got new chassis, they got new engines, they're just new into the 305s, so they're going to come down.
Yeah, but on Friday night, Des Moines. 4th? No, on Friday night for the weekly stuff.
Yeah.
On Friday nights, the State Fairgrounds racetrack in Des Moines is running sprint cars.
Yeah, but the 305s are going to be there on April 5th. So this is, from what Stan said, this will be their first opportunity to race that year.
I bet you there's a ton of cars that night.
He thinks that there's going to be a huge crowd.
I'm all get out excited for the weekly stuff.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. April 5th, Crawford County Speedway, Denison, Iowa is the Facebook page. They're posting all of their tentative schedules, their purses for the year, a lot of different things. So it's very exciting time of the year, and can't wait for that to happen. And I seriously cannot wait to get back to the dirt track.
I can't wait to see what they're going to do with their go-kart track.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting.
Because my son's starting this year racing, and he's all hot to trot, and supposedly he's better than me. We'll find out.
Another Jones on the track.
We're jonesing to go.
Oh, boy. All right. Walk down Sunset Lane. Here's the skinny. I sat down with Craig Kelly, Stan Caesar, Lee Ackerman, and we kind of came out with a tentative plan. You and I have both realized that the best thing to do, and this is what I do every single show. You can see my notes. I'm holding them up for you. Turn one, it's a bullet point. I've got no direction other than that because you don't want direction. Otherwise, things get missed. You keep moving on. So here's what we're going to do. Turn one of our number one, dubbed the early years. We're going to talk about the start. Stan Caesar is going to be telling stories about how they designed the track, who got it started, what was the beginning of Sunset Speedway. That's going to be 1957 to about 70.
And Glenn Roby's going to be here for that, too.
Glenn Roby will be
He'll
here.
have some input on that.
Won the first two features. Was it Bill Rick that won the first two championships, though?
That might be.
I think I got that wrong, though. Turns 2 and 3, I've got it wide open for conversations with drivers like Bob Kaziski, Bill Rick, Glenn Roby, Stan Caesar. And we're just going to have people who are coming throughout. If there's somebody there that Stan taps on my shoulder and says, let's get him on the microphone, we're going to get him on the microphone, and he's going to come on and talk.
I do want to clarify, though, if I remember right, we're going to have microphones up. So if you, the fan who's listening to the front stretch now, if you want to walk up and ask Glenn Roby something, or Buddy Ray, or Dan Taylor, or John Kinney Jr., or Dave Chase, if you guys want to ask us questions, hey, it's an open mic. It's an open floor. This is going to get kind of gnarly.
Don't ask me anything other than what to eat at Quaker Steak and Lube. I can go on for days about the food to eat at Quaker Steak and Lube, but I don't know diddly about dirt tracking.
And don't ask me nothing. I'm not qualified to strip the mud off these guys' cars.
Dennis Parker's going to come.
Wow.
He's going to talk about, he's trying to come, depends on if anything comes up. He's going to talk about his dad, Bob Parker, who, now that I think about it, I think he was the one that won the first two championships there. Obviously, Wayne Q's going to be there. Wayne's a colorful fella.
I want to do an impersonation so bad, but I won't.
I don't want to have to edit that down. Don't.
You ain't got enough time.
No. We've only got about 3 more minutes in this segment, so that's turn 1. Turn 4, by the way, is going to be fan Q&A. Now, listen, I've got 6 microphones, so we're going to try to set up a 6th final one off the edge of the table, and we're going to have the fans ask questions. But if no one wants to come up and ask questions, we'll just sit there and continue to tell stories.
Hey, and I do want to iterate to the listeners. Mm-hmm. It's not like we're only going to do this for exactly 2 hours. There's so much history that if we're there for 2 or 3 hours, we're there for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
and
everybody will be heard.
That entire show will go up on YouTube on our Joe's Karting page.
I can't wait for that.
And so the entire unedited show, I'll edit any kind of hard things to hear, I'll edit some stuff down, but no content will be removed or anything anybody says.
Raw, live, and unedited.
Hour number 2 is going to be the Sunset Days or the Kelly era. It's going to be from 70 to 2000 when the track closed. Joe and Steve Kaziski are going to join us. Dave Chase is going to be there. By the way, Dave Chase is bringing some hero cards that he's got left over, so he's going to sign those for fans. John Kinney Jr. is going to be there. Leon Zeitner. We're trying to get Jim Wilson and Tom Grasso to come out. We're also trying to get, there's so many drivers that we're trying to get to come out to this thing. Turn 1 is going to be the change of an era. Talk about how Craig made his impression on Sunset Speedway, some of the things that he implemented. Just sitting at lunch the other day, the things that he's talking about, he was the first one to do at Sunset Speedway. Just, it's common sense today. Why wouldn't anybody have done that before?
To tell you how instrumental Sunset Speedway was, think of the race, the Cornhusker Classic. Where did it start?
Sunset Speedway.
Sunset Speedway.
Just some of the rules. They came up with tire rules to cut down on costs. They came up with shock rules to cut down on costs. Just some of the things that Craig came up with to try to cut down on costs. Keep car count up because you've got 150 cars there. You're going to have some great action. And then that means there's going to be people in the seats.
And I tell you what, though, being a driver, I've already been told by some of these drivers, there's going to be some tough questions for the retired promoters because they're going to be like, well, why is it that when I drew first place for the Trophy Dash, I started dead last every time?
Luke Cochran's going to be there, and he's bringing some of his memorabilia. I'm trying to rush because we got about 30 seconds left in the show. In this turn, then we got to get to Glenn Roby. Fan Q&A in turn 4. I'm telling you, folks, there's so much going on. We're still working on, I'm getting the stuff finalized, but we're trying to get 100 posters made for the fans to take home, and it's going to be a walk down Sunset Lane. It's going to have the date, and then it's going to have just some of the drivers' pictures of their cars going into the corners. I think I've got 8 drivers right now that we're putting on there. Joe Kaziski, Steve, Bob, Dave Chase, who else? Glenn Roby, Leon Zeitner, I got a picture of him. I've got all these guys that are legends.
Leon's brother, Al Zeitner's showing up.
That we've put their picture on this poster, and then we're going to have 100 of them made, so you can take them to the drivers and have them autographed, and you've got something to take them, a little keepsake for you. We're also trying to get a projector set up, and we're going to get everybody to contribute pictures of their favorite drivers while they're racing. Any pictures from Sunset Speedway. Man, there is so much going on that night. I can't even fit it into 10 minutes of describing it, and that's how long we've been talking about this. Absolutely ridiculous. It's going on this Wednesday night. This is your last time you're going to hear about it from us on the Front Stretch. All kicks off at 6 o'clock at Quaker Steak and Lube. We're going to record until we're done telling stories, and then January 26th, we're going to post the first hour, and then February 2nd, we're going to post the second hour, and we're going to play them on the show. So that's how it's all going to break out. Make sure you become a fan of the Front Stretch Facebook page. That way you can get to the Walk Down Sunset Lane event, and you can invite your friends. Everybody needs to come to this event. We have plenty of room at Quaker Steak and Lube, and we have backup plans. We have microphones. We have speakers set up throughout Quaker Steak and Lube so that you can hear us this year. Remember last year we had the feedback and echo problem?
Yep.
Not going to happen this year. We've got it figured out. We're good to go. Legends of the Dirt Series presented by Kaziski Auto Parts coming up next here on the Front Stretch.
It's back again this year. Make memories at Quaker Steak and Lube on Monday, December 16th, and have dinner with Santa. Mr. and Mrs. Claus love the lube, and your family will too, with free photos with Santa. And the kids could win one of 3 Razor scooters we're giving away. Don't forget, stock up on the lube gift cards, the perfect stocking stuffer. Dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Claus, Monday, December 16th from 5 until 8 p.m. And don't forget, kids eat free with an adult purchase. Quaker Steak and Lube, next to the Mid-America Center, Council Bluffs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Time to grab another tear-off and make your move. We're headed into Turn 3 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting.
This is Jack Roush, and you're listening to The Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. Heading into Turn 2. Heading into Turn 3, and we are continuing our Legends of the Dirt series, presented by Kaziski Auto Parts and I-80 Speedway. 51st and I Street is where Kaziski Auto Parts is located, KaziskiAutoparts.com or i-80speedway.com. I-80 Speedway, full season tickets available now. We're into January, guys. Now's the time to start buying your season tickets to all of your dirt track races. And Joe and Lee, you guys got some great deals put up there on i-80speedway.com. If you give the office phone a call, you're going to talk to Lee Ackerman about purchasing yourself some season tickets.
I'm going to tell you right now, the season tickets are worth it. You're going to see me racing I-80 Speedway this year.
Did you guys have to drop the price when you found that out?
No, not really.
Okay, I was just checking. I just didn't know. But I tell you what, let's get into our interview tonight. We're talking with Gary Webb. Gary, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad to be with you.
Gary, you've obviously you're a part of the Legends of the Dirt series, so you found your way into victory lane a couple of times. National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame in 2008, you were inducted. I'm going to let Lee kind of talk about some of your accolades, and then we'll talk about your career a little bit.
Well, Gary, it seems like you raced forever, and I guess you pretty close did. You raced against the guys that I worked for, Joe and Steve, and I know you were national champion in NASCAR one year, and I think you got a pretty hefty check that year.
Yeah, it all helps. You know, a racer's never going to get wealthy. It's just you need the money to keep your car operating, and thanks to NASCAR, that made that era of my career pretty easy.
You also won the UMP national champion the first 2 years that they had a UMP national champion, did you not?
Yeah, and again, I don't mean to dwell on the money, but that paid $10,000 each year for the champion's purse, and I was always an owner-operator, and that, again, just helped made it to where you could race more.
Gary, let's talk about the start of your career. This is a family sport. Did you get started in it because your dad was a dirt racer, or were you a first generation?
Well, I actually was a first generation. The fairgrounds in Davenport always had races on Friday night. I grew up 6 blocks north of there, But even as a kid, I enjoyed the racing so much, I'd actually go stand on the corner, because back then cars were either pulled with open trailers or maybe even a tow bar, as bizarre as that seems. But I would stand on the corner and watch the cars go by, and really found pleasure in that, and went and watched them. And I just remember thinking, oh, I would really like to do this, but how am I ever going to be able to do this? And it was a challenge. And I finally, when I was 22 years old, I had a good enough job with the Ralston Purina Company in Davenport, Iowa, that I could afford to buy my first car, which was a used late model that raced up in Freeport, Illinois. So I've raced only solely in late models since my start.
517 wins over your career, 68 different tracks throughout 20 states. You won 17 home track championships at East Moline Speedway, 27 track championships total. At what point in your career did you realize you were hooked?
Well, I always wanted to do it, and again, I was working at Ralston Purina to be able to afford to do it. And then I started in 1972, so about 7 years into it, in 1979, I thought, the races were out there. I thought I could race a few extra nights and actually offset my income. So I was able to virtually start racing the summers and dedicate my time to racing and in fact employ myself with it. And then in the winters, naturally, I always got work. So it caused some resentment at the time, because I'd have mostly wives say, it doesn't seem fair. This is when I was able to win and stuff, that their husbands had to work all day and then work on their cars at night. But, racing a car is a full-time job too. So that did allow me to race more, and that's why I was able to go to so many tracks in so many states. And, it just truly was something that it drove me. I mean, I enjoyed the racing so much. I still cared for my family, naturally. I don't mean to sound that way. Family comes first, but racing was, in fact, my livelihood, and I really sometimes I almost have to pinch myself to even believe myself that I was able to do that.
How big of a leap was it for you to make that transition from working an 8-to-5 job and then having that paycheck security? How big of a leap was it to go full-time and do this 100%?
Oh, when I walked out of Ralston Purina, it was a hollow feeling. I thought, is this really what you should be doing? And honestly, through the years, I would have dreams that I still worked there. Ralston Purina was a big part of I went there right out of high school, so from 18 to 29, I had worked there 11 years. So it was an important part of my life also. So, but, it just seemed like when things, were bad, you wondered, how am I going to keep this going? You always found a way.
Did you find that as extra motivation? I mean, your paycheck came from visiting Victory Lane or getting Lisa up on the podium. So was that extra motivation to put food on the table?
Yeah, you did the best you could, and thankfully at the time, I was able to be very competitive, and the expenses were great. I always told people that you had to live a humble life if they questioned me. And one time, just coincidentally, this is a little side story, I was going into the bank to cash some checks and make a deposit into my savings account, or checking one or the other. And here was, like I said, I ran late model, and here was the local hobby class or street stock, one of the other standout champions, and he was going into the bank to make a payment on his brand new pickup, and I drove a 10-year-old pickup. And in conversation, he said, I would sure like to do what you do. Could you give me any suggestions? And I said, yeah. We're here at the bank for two different reasons. Once you figure that out, that would be very helpful to you. But people
Gary, you weren't always known for your fancy haulers, that's for sure. Long after everybody else had an enclosed hauler, here came Gary and his number 56 on an open trailer.
Yeah, you had to live a humble life, which I enjoyed. I am a humble person, and, again, I've made a lot of sacrifices. I regret missing a few weddings and a few birthday parties, thinking that I had to race, which actually, once you get into a point system, you almost are forced to be at the race. You couldn't afford points-wise to miss a race. So, racing takes a lot of anybody's time, including the crew and the wives and the mothers and fathers. It's a great sport, but there's, a lot of dimensions to racing.
Gary, you didn't always have a very big crew either, did you?
No, in fact, it's my brother. I've got a brother a year and a half younger than me, and he has been with me through thick and thin. He always had a job, so he didn't go on the road with me a lot. And honestly, I enjoyed going by myself sometimes. A lot of times I traveled with one other person, or two were a luxury. But, I was a meat and potatoes racer. I worked on my own cars. I fixed them, did everything about them. So I was, able to race by myself.
The UMP, the United Midwest Promoters Racing, was founded in '84, and you started running that, and you won the first two championships. Talk about the decision to run that and then getting yourself a championship in '84 and '85.
Well, actually, UMP sanctioned my home track, and we ran there Friday and Sunday. That's even hard to believe in these times, but we had enough, attendance and stuff that the races did go off every Friday and Sunday, and then I would travel typically about 300 miles to be able to race on a Saturday night to continue the points. But back then, it was a matter of just accumulating all the points you could. So that kind of gave me an advantage, too, that I could go, it wasn't like the best of 20. It was whoever gathered up the most points. Actually, kind of how NASCAR was in the early years, where whoever gathered up the most points was the champion.
Gary, who's some of the drivers you really enjoyed racing with? Some of the ones I know I saw you in Cherokee one time for the Blue Gray 100, so I know you've been all over. But who are some of the guys you really enjoyed racing against?
Well, naturally, not just because it's a show and they're the sponsor, but the Consistent brothers would come to, our side of the state, let's call it, the eastern Iowa, and won many, many, many races. But I always found that they were good to race with. They were fair and clean, and some of the other guys I enjoyed racing with naturally was Ed Sanger at the phase of my career versus his. When I started, Ed won many, many races. So, those were guys that you looked up to. And then I had local guys that I competed against, Ronnie Whedon and Ray Duck Sr. and Dave Burkoffer. These are fathers of a lot of the names that people know. Naturally, at my age, I raced with a different generation of people, even though I carried on and raced with sons and even the grandsons of a lot of the men.
When you were racing back, in the late 60s, early 70s into the 80s, do you think the gap in generations, do you think there was a different mindset there between what we had then and what we have now?
Well, it's just a different time. We used to build our own cars. We'd have to fabricate our own parts, and you actually would keep a car, 2-3 years, maybe more. And then as the years progressed and parts were more available and chassis were being manufactured for racing, it got to where, you thought you needed a new car every year, and some people would buy 2 new cars in a year. And the technology made them easier to drive. Rack and pinion steering and stuff made them easier to drive. So a lot of the young drivers of today are getting in cars that drive well, and that helps them, speed up their learning curve.
Rivalries are a big part of this sport. Two guys that just seem to, no matter where they go and where they race, they're always right there battling for the win. Did you have somebody that you had, and maybe not being a bitter rivalry, but just a rivalry, someone that you lost to more often than you won, and you felt like you should have won a few more times?
Well, even to this day, I race with Ray Gus Jr., and we're both from the Quad Cities. We never did really choose to be friends with each other. We're casual. We can communicate with each other, but it's truly a competitive spirit, and it passes on down to the fans. And that rivalry is good for the sport. So Ray Gus Jr. is one of the men that I've competed with tooth and nail for 25 years and still do to this day. He's got a little better equipment than I have now, and maybe there was a time I had a better equipment than he had. So, again, I find pleasure in if I am able to finish ahead of him. I did win a feature, and he got second a couple of years ago at East Moline Speedway, and everybody shook my hand except for Ray. So I thought, well, things haven't changed. So.
Did you have a tough time when he beat you, kind of shutting that off? You talked about you're a humble guy. Was it hard to shut off that competitive side where you just kind of wanted to, he got me, dang it, and kind of just walk away and not really talk to him for a few days? Or were you able to go and approach him about it and just talk about the battle you guys had?
Well, no, we seldom talked about the racing. We typically didn't search each other out. You'll have certain friends that you search out at each event and stuff, and we didn't either one, tend to do that much. But, we race so much over here, if one race is good or bad for you, and virtually of a couple of days, you've raced twice again since then. So, things change pretty fast when you're, in the heat of the summer when you're racing a lot.
We're talking with Gary Webb, legendary driver throughout the Midwest, 517 wins, several track championships. We're going to talk about his NASCAR days, his IMCA derbies, all sorts of stuff coming up in Turn 4. We'll be right back here on the front stretch.
We have all been there before. Broken car part in your hand and some snot-nosed punk behind the counter has no idea what he is talking about, but he guarantees that this part will fix your car. You pay an arm and a leg for the replacement, get it home, and sure enough, it doesn't fit your car. Now, learn from your mistake and give an experienced salesperson at Kosiski Auto Parts a call today at 402-731-4592. Kosiski Auto Parts will get you back on the road with your arms and legs still attached.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Get ready for the victory lap as we make our way into Turn 4 on the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Hey, this is Johanna Long, driver of the number 74 Travel Motor Coach Chevrolet for ML Motorsports, and you're listening to The Front Stretch.
Just about ready to wrap this baby up, heading into Turn 4, part of the Legends of the Dirt Series, brought to you by Kosiski Auto Parts. And the front stretch today, always presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. Talking with Gary Webb. Gary, have you ever got to race go-karts, A, indoors, and B, ones that don't have governors on them?
Well, I actually started in go-karts on dirt ovals back when I was my early teens, probably 13 through maybe age of 17. That was fun. I mean, racing was racing, but no, I never did. Back then, they didn't have indoor racing that I was aware of or anywhere around where I was from.
Our co-host here, Buddy Ray, is operations director for an indoor karting facility open to the public. If you're ever through Council Bluffs, just look Buddy up. I'm sure. Can we squeeze a couple of free races out of you?
I'm sure we could squeeze a few friends in. Yeah.
You're welcome to come in and try out the racing. They do a fantastic job over there at Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Is that the polished concrete, or is it an indoor track that's made of dirt? What is it made of?
It's concrete, but it's sandblasted. It's not smooth. It's sandblasted concrete, so it's got quite a bit of grip.
Okay, I've raced on some of that polished stuff, and that's a lot of fun. This was just not racing. I shouldn't say racing. It was just enjoying myself on it.
Gary, when we were away at the break, you were talking about how as now as your full-time job, you deliver Featherlight trailers, Featherlight horse trailers, and I was kind of asking you about the open road a little bit, and you were talking about a story about how you were over in Southern North Carolina. Can you retell that story for the fans a little bit?
Yeah, I'm as much a race fan as anybody. We all do this because it gives us pleasure, and I happened to deliver a trailer in Dover, North Carolina, which is quite a ways down. It's over on the coast. I found out that it was a Friday. It was just last Friday. It was in the evening, and I looked up the address for I carry a racetrack directory because I actually find pleasure stopping and even just looking at tracks if nobody's around, so I carry that. Well, I found out the name of the town the track was in, Elm City, North Carolina, and I put it in my GPS, and here it was only an hour and 5 minutes away. So I drove up there, and they had $10,000 to win, and they had 24 late models, which you expected more, but that's somehow what's been happening. And Scott Bloomquist was there. I'm just throwing out a name that everybody would recognize. And as fun as this could seem, he ran third in his heat race, and then the next night I didn't stay for the main. He got fifth in the main, so that gives some credibility to the competition.
Yeah.
But this was a track that I had never seen in cars that I hadn't, I'd seen Bloomquist, but cars I hadn't seen, and it really was fun, and it was a third mile semi-bank track. It really would remind you of Sunset Speedway, kind of the amount of banking and the length of the track, and yeah, it was a great Friday night. I really enjoyed myself, and I got a pit pass and walked around and visited with a lot of the competitors, and yeah, I enjoy that.
Gary, you talked about how you were an hour and 5 minutes away from the racetrack there. In today's world, can you tell the listeners out there why it's important to embrace this sport that we call racing, and why, what is so fun when you go out to the track? If I come up to you and say, Gary, why do I need to go there? What would you tell me?
For one thing, it's great camaraderie. I mean, I would walk up into the pit grandstand and make a conversation with the guy next to me or the gal next to me, and they're anxious to talk racing. It's a great thing. Racing is a great sport, and these are people that I've never seen and will never see again. And we had some conversation about the cars and the track and what was going on. So it's something that you can find pleasure in at all times.
How often in your travels when you're delivering those trailers do you find yourself doing what you did a couple of weeks ago, diverting off to a dirt track and getting a little dirt in your beer on a Friday or Saturday night?
Well, coincidentally, on Labor Day weekend, I was coming up from the south, and I was in West Virginia, and I found out there was a race in Beckley, and the timing was just right. I actually parked my truck and trailer, and when I went and got my pit pass, they were just starting to time trial. That was one of the fast track racing series. They had 32 cars there. They were the crate engine cars. And again, I enjoyed seeing 32 paint schemes and numbers and cars that I'd never seen, before and may never see again. And I just moseyed through the pits, kind of saw what you could see, and go up and watch. Now, that night I watched the entire program. It was a one-day show, where last weekend was a two-day show. I just watched time trials and heat races. But I found great pleasure in that, and I hadn't watched very many crate engine races, and honestly, they were very competitive, and I was pretty impressed with it.
What is your opinion of the current crate debate out there? Do you think the crate engines are actually a pretty good deal for the sport?
From the side of a man that pays the bills, I think it's great. I really do. But let's be fair to the engine builders and the people that sell racing parts. There's a divide there. So it's something to debate. But as far as, racing is so expensive. They pay what they can, but it's not going to recover your investment. So if you're going to be racing with a $6,000 crate engine for virtually the same prize money as a a $30,000 open engine or a $20,000 middle of the run engine, I mean, let's face it, it makes more sense.
Gary, let's talk about some of your big wins as you moved up into the NASCAR Regional Championship. You've won yourself several of them. 1999, you won the NASCAR Regional Championship for the Midwest. You followed it up, posting 16 wins in 18 starts, and you not only claimed the Regional Championship, but the NASCAR Weekly Series National Championship. Talk about that run.
Well, you know what's surprising? You would have thought that people would have really resented that. But I think the town of Dubuque embraced the idea of accomplishing what I was trying to accomplish. And, I mean, they were supportive all the way through. I mean, honestly, to go to the races every Sunday night, which Dubuque races on Sunday, and see the same car win every week, that doesn't sound very thrilling. But we did have good competition, and I had to start 12th every night. So, you know, that format alone caused excitement. But, yeah, I was very grateful that, you know, they really got behind me. And then when it was obvious I was going to win the National, and they do that at the end of the year, the NASCAR sends the camera crews and stuff up. That crowd was just full, and they were so supportive. It was a great experience.
You find today, and you hear it with the guys like Jimmy Johnson, and we've got a couple of local drivers that I really feel the same sense of. They win so much that people begin to almost hate them, and hate's a very, very strong word, so maybe that's not the best word to use it, but they begin to root against them, and they get tired of seeing the same guy winning. Did you have that problem when you were winning so much?
Yeah, honestly, I could get more applause for a flat tire, you know, at East Moline. And, you know, that, I don't know, you just got to kind of grin and bear it, and you had your diehard fans, and you just kind of enjoyed your time with them, you know. And again, when the crowd is booing, at least you know that you're accomplishing something, so you've got their attention.
Was it hard to remind yourself while you're standing in victory lane, maybe you crawl out of the cockpit and you throw your arms up and you're hearing some boos? Was it hard to remind yourself that those were just people with bitter pill?
Well, this is a quick story what happened one night. I came off the corner and I tangled with Ray Gus Sr., and I went head on into the concrete wall. Well, the grandstand at East Moline sits quite close to the track, and a lot of people like to sit right down by the wall. And it kind of rang my bell, and when I looked up, here was a lady applauding the fact that I had crashed. And it just went through my mind. I thought, you know, I sacrifice all my time, any money I can muster up to entertain. And had I had a catastrophic injury, that would have been the last thing I saw. I thought, now what is this all about? You know, but that gave her pleasure, and I had to just kind of go on with it.
How long did it take for the appreciation to set in? I talk about, you know, I've preached on the show a lot with people who complain about Jimmy Johnson winning, and you know, he may win 7, 8, maybe even 9 championships by the time he retires, and I figure it's going to be about 10 years before they begin to appreciate what we have right now. Was there a 5 or 10 year time frame when you slowed down and stopped winning so much and people began to appreciate it?
Well, yeah, I still race some, and I had an experience here a couple years ago where I won a feature, and I had a young man come up to me, and his father was a racer, and his father's passed away. So I think that might have been something that hit home with him, because maybe he and his father had watched me win, let's call it back in the day. And he told me, he said, Gary, you're not going to believe this, but he said, it made me cry when you won. Now, Here's a guy that I used to win so much, like you said, they resented it, and now it gives them pleasure to see me win. So it's just a matter of where you've been and where you're going and where you're at right now.
Well, we've been talking with Gary Webb, driver of the number 56, part of the Legends of the Dirt series, brought to you by Kaziski Auto Parts. Lee, you got one or two more stories for us?
I got one question for Gary. I know he ran here a number of times, and I remember him driving the red Kirshner 63 one time there. The Illinois State Fairgrounds is a mile. and that's quite a bit bigger than East Moline and some of the other tracks you ran on. What was the main difference to you?
Well, I'll tell you what, if somebody asked me today, what is your favorite track of all times, I would say the 1 mile track at the Illinois State Fairgrounds. It's such a thrill, not so much to go so fast, but the way that you drive that track. And honestly, it's more like driving down the interstate than it is, racing at I-80 Speedway or East Moline Speedway. It's just different. But that was always a Sunday afternoon, and typically it was a sunny Sunday, and the track never got dusty. I had a lot of pleasure racing at the Illinois State Fairgrounds.
And I believe you won there once, didn't you?
Yeah, clear back in 1980.
That's not that long ago, buddy.
It was split with a USAC show, so they had the USAC late models, and then they had the your weekly type dirt cars. And I was fortunate enough to win that, and that's still one of my highlights.
All right, Gary, I think we've taken all the time that we can muster from you for this show. We do appreciate it, and thank you for coming on and being a part of the Legends of the Dirt Series.
Well, you guys are the greatest, and I want to wish everybody happy holidays, and let's get through the winter and do some more racing in the spring.
Amen.
All right, take care, Gary.
See you guys.
All right, thank you, Gary. Have a good one.
All right.
Gary Webb, legendary driver throughout the Midwest, got 517 wins throughout his entire career.
Lee, have you ever seen Gary do something where you're just like, wow?
One of the things, as I said when we were talking to Gary, was the thing that I think impresses you the most about Gary Webb is these guys that show up in their enclosed trailers, and here comes Gary with an open trailer, maybe by himself. Maybe his son was with him or his brother, but I think that was the impressive thing, is the effort he made. He had some good sponsors, but and he raced. Like I said, I saw him in North Carolina. I'm sure he raced in Florida a few times.
Well, you know what I took from it? He had a very valid point when that other guy from the street stock, hobby stock style class, is in there making a payment on his brand new truck, and here's Gary with a 10-year-old truck. So I'm wondering to myself, as I'm out at I-80 this year, I'm driving a truck that's 10 years older, and I don't have a big fancy toter, but what's my problem?
Well, I think
we don't have enough time.
I think your problem is that you're spending money repairing that 10-year-old truck. Listen, that Dodge has been a bit of a ding on your wallet.
Yeah.
I don't know how many shows this year you called me. My transmission's out. I'm going to have to miss the show tonight. Steve Kinzer and Jeff Purvis still left to come on the Legends of the Dirt Series list, buddy. Lee, thanks for taking time to talk to Gary Webb and doing it again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next weekend.
It's back again this year. Make memories at Quaker Steak & Lube on Monday, December 16th, and have dinner with Santa. Mr. and Mrs. Claus love the lube, and your family will too, with free photos with Santa. And the kids could win one of 3 Razor scooters we're giving away. Don't forget, stock up on the lube gift cards, the perfect stocking stuffer. Dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Claus, Monday, December 16th from 5 until 8 p.m. And don't forget, kids eat free with an adult purchase. Quaker Steak & Lube, next to the Mid-America Center, Council Bluffs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.